I got a feeling that you got me covered too. I got you covered. I got you covered.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today? We're probably not going to be on here terribly long today for Christmas Connection 27. Hi, Jaden, because we got to get ready for the kiddos coming. We have not opened our gifts yet, y'all. And so we've got to get ready for them. So you won't see us. We'll probably be on here about a half an hour is what I'm looking at. And then I've got to finish up a little bit of the last minute gift for Christina and go try to help my mom. I'm having a kind of a painful day today, so all I really wanted to do was actually stay in bed, but that's not going to happen today. So do my best to kind of chug along. I wanted to have a talk today about through the years, and that may sound a little bit odd, but you'll notice the thumbnail was done with my mother and dad's wedding picture because today would have been their 53rd wedding anniversary. They made it to 59 or 49, excuse me. My dad passed away in uh, 21, so they made it through that 49 um, years, and they were married 2 days after Christmas. Hi, Jake. How are you? And so actually, it was kind of, I guess, good that I did it. On my parents' 30th wedding anniversary, I was working in a hotel and I decided to throw my mom and dad 30th wedding anniversary party. And well, I'm really glad I did, but my mother's not too much of like, she likes to know what's going on. She doesn't want surprises. Well, my aunt happened to be down for it. She was down. My grandmother knew what was going on and everything. My grandmother actually had to go talk to my dad and say, "Would you just calm down and let Mary do her thing? She's got a great thing planned." So it wasn't a total, excuse me, a total secret what was happening, but I was able to get a discount on the room that we had the party in. I was able to find my mother's maid of honor, her one of her bridesmaids, their best man, and have them. I had people. My grandfather he was in Maryland, but he was happened to be in Florida. My uncle on his biological father's side called me and said, "I want to come, but don't tell him I'm coming." Aunts and so forth, they were all there. And I had a DJ who was a friend of mine who came and did the DJ part. The only thing I really wish that I had invested in at the time was to have a videographer there and capture all of that, but I didn't. I was doing what I could, but I really wish that I had made that happen some way, somehow. And I'm sure I could have found a way, even if they did it as a way of honoring my dad's military service. But anyway, I have a little bit of a videotape that I did myself of the event. And so my mom and dad, I actually had to hire. We had limos and so forth, and cars and so forth at the hotel. And so the guy that ran that, I said to him, "Listen, I need you to come to the house." I had to hire a limo to take them to the hotel where they were going to stay overnight, where I was working and having the party, because I thought they're threatening to, up and leave for the night and go like an hour away to dinner. And I'm like, oh my gosh, please just be downstairs and everything. So we got it all arranged and everything. And my mom came through probably a couple days before the party, and I had taken a Benadryl. I'd had something with allergies. So I was half asleep. And she said to me, "Mary, I've got to know what's going on." I said, "Mom, can you just please trust me? I'm not going to do anything that's, outlandish or upsetting. Would you just please trust me?" So I would be in the back of I was working the phone. So I got these styrofoam. That's one of the things I can show you how to do next year. Styrofoam trees, right? And I got these peppermints and I would stick, I mean, my thumbs, because I do like 12 tables. My thumbs were so sore by the time I was done taking these little pins and sticking the darn peppermints in these trees. And so, oh my goodness. And so, got all of it done, got them in their room, got everybody else in their room, and it was unbelievable. Got people from the airport and everything. Well, the time came for the party, and we got my mom and dad in the room, and my mom's face just melted and she just cried. And my dad and her got their first dance, and we had Publix, and so I gave them a picture of my dad's and mom's wedding cake, which my dad never got any of his wedding cake, and I said, "Can you reproduce this wedding cake?" So we reproduced the wedding cake and everything, and and so forth and so on. And it was really a wonderful time. I'm so glad we did it. And later on, my mother said to me, she said, "Mary, you can do this another 20 years when we have our 50th." I said, when it's your 50th, I'm sending the two of you off to a cruise. Why in the heck did you get married 2 days after Christmas? It's like, oh my goodness. I was like, no, when it's time for the two of you to have a party, do this for your 50th. I'm putting you two on a cruise, and here you go. You've had your party. Because her thing was most of the time you wait till after you've had your 50th before you do something like this. But, I'm really glad. And later on, my mother says, "I'm so glad we didn't wait. I'm so glad." We had family there that's no longer here. We had my dad, who they didn't make it to their 50th, the last 7 years. He was able to be there. He was able to dance with my mother. And the song that actually they danced to for that event was "Through the Years" by Kenny Rogers. And why am I saying all this? Well, it was a special memory that kind of ties into all of it. But in itself, I love Mr. Blessed to Crochet. But there are times where I go, "I love you, but I don't necessarily like you today." When it's, "Honey, where's this for the third time?" Or, "Honey, where's this for the third time?" Or, "Honey," it's kind of, or what have you. There's days, and we all have them if you're married, going, I love you, but I don't necessarily like you today, right? But when Mr. Blessed and I got married, we both had been through previous marriages, and we both had gone through divorce court. And we said, "You know what? Listen, we're going to have 3 boundaries. You cross them boundaries, and then we'll talk, right? We will talk." Because we'll talk, because those are the 3 boundaries. You start drinking, start using drugs, or you cheat, and we'll go from there. We've been married almost 18 years. None of those boundaries have been broken. And I'm not saying that if you've been divorced or something, or things happen, that you should feel in any way, shape, or form terrible about it. I've been divorced. I had to walk away from my marriage because it was not a healthy environment for me and my daughter. So I had to choose to say, I got to walk because I got to keep my daughter safe. But I think that we need to look at through the years, in the sense that whether we're dealing with friendship, whether we're dealing with relationship type, there's going to be times where if we think we're getting into a friendship or a relationship and it's going to be all smooth sailing, you've got another thing coming. We're going to have times where there is going to be ups and downs, and you're closer and you're further apart from each other. And that's just the way I think it works. If we realize that when you're building a friendship, or whether you're building a romantic relationship or what have you, or family relationships, whatever it is, if we realize that there's going to be times where we are one way or the other, closer or further apart, And there's going to be those times. Nothing is going to be smooth sailing. I can tell you from watching my parents for 49 years, there were times, and there was some very, very rocky times. My dad had never seen a marriage, nor did my mother, that was anything stable. My dad's father left when he was 6, and his grandmother got a divorce. Then my grandmother got married again. Then she got married for the 3rd time to his adopted father. Then that fell apart, and then there was a 4th. A mixed of a chaotic mother who had undiagnosed bipolar. It was all this chaos. He never seen a family that had been married for 49 years. And myself, who had, a mother and father that got married and that didn't get divorced. It was like, I didn't really want to get a divorce, but I also didn't want to be in a position putting my daughter into harm risk, and I couldn't do that. So if we realize that in life, just like their marriage, we're going to have highs and lows, right? There were times where they were really close, and there were other times where they had issues and problems. Sometimes there were, excuse me, not sick. There was times where they had issues and problems. There was times where they would have fights, and I would hear my dad say, well, you know what, then let's get a divorce. And my mom says, well, you can walk out that door, Chuck, but I'm not going anywhere. See, we not only need people. Marriage is not about getting married and all the wonderful things. When my daughter got married, I said, I'm going to give you the best wedding that I can afford to do. And we can. And thankfully, my grandmother had put aside a lump of money and said, this is for Christina's wedding if she gets married. And that is to be designated and used specifically for that. And those wishes were honored. But I said to her, I want to give you a day. Because when you're having your struggles, you can look back on those pictures. You can look back at that wedding day. Remember why you got married. And they've had their difficulties, as every marriage has. And so is Josh and I. So is my mom and my dad. But they have worked things out. But she said to me, I go back and look at those pictures. And I put a smile on my face. Back and remember that day and put a smile on my face. I do the same thing with Josh. Go back to our wedding day, and I remember me walking down the aisle and seeing him there. And I think that if we realize that through the years, it is the commitment that keeps people together. It's getting into a friendship and saying, we're going to agree to disagree, but I'm committed to being your friend. I'm not going anywhere. You ain't going to get rid of me. And there's friends I have that say, guess what? You got me for life. We may have our differences. We may have our disagreements, and that's okay. But at the end of it, I'm here if you, hopefully you can still hear me because I'm like, our lives. But at the end of it, I'm here. Okay, you can still hear me. Our lives we have to remember that we're going to have times where friendships, marriages, whatever it is, guys, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Right? And if you're going to become friends with somebody, hi Matt, how are you? You have to keep choosing each other where you are if you're supposed to work it out for long term. Absolutely. 100%. Because here's the important thing about it. Okay. But he was a difficult man. I'm telling you, I've said it more than once. Mom, you were a saint. Because I would have just walked away. I couldn't have done it. My dad and I were too much alike. There's no way. Josh and I, he said to me more than once, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Because he's needed me at times to be the real strong one, as I needed him to be the real strong one and say, we're not playing that game. You know, his grandmother, because he didn't have a dad, you know, everybody else in our family, the rest of them were kind of married, and they did. She used to go around and say, poor Josh. You know, say, poor Josh, poor Josh. We're not going to play that game. Or whether it is a romantic relationship, it takes work. And you do it through the years and you grow. If we realize that it takes 200 hours, I'm going to repeat it one more time. All right, we'll do this way until the computer decides it wants to cooperate with me. When my son-in-law comes today, I'm going to be asking him about possibly an idea I have, but I have to wait. But if we remember that it's, that we remember that, we have to really work at, right? We have to work at the relationship or the friendship, whatever we do, we have to work at it. If we don't realize that we have to work at it, right? Then what do we have left? We have to work at a friendship. We have to work at a relationship. We have to do it through the years. We have to spend time, guys, doing it. And that's the point of it all. Connection doesn't just happen. It takes work for it to happen. And I had a wonderful mom and I had a wonderful dad, even though we had our difficulties, especially with my dad. But I am so thankful that I had them. I heard the saying one time, we are given the parents that we're supposed to have, not the parents we want to have. Parents we're supposed to have. And my mom and I were actually talking about it yesterday and said, you know what? We Yes, I think we will. We were talking about this yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that she said, my mom, I said, I don't think I was the granddaughter that Nana wanted. She said, I wasn't the daughter that Nana wanted either. I said, it was too much like her. We have to work at this. My parents had to work on their marriage for it to last for 49 years. Josh and I have to work on our marriage, even through all the struggles to make it work. Christina and Jared have to do theirs. Friendships work the same way. In order to have friends and stay connected and build a friendship, you have to work at it. It just doesn't come by. That's why I say to everybody, if you show up when our lives come on, if you're able to do it and get in the chat and say one word and it's called hello, you are going to make friends and you're going to start connecting. If you're not on the lifeboat, then you need to be on the lifeboat. Now, this weekend, I'm going to ask my crew. I'm going to get my letter done and I will explain that further this weekend. Ask my crew to give me a late Christmas present. Because if you were affected by this channel, then you have been affected by the lifeboat. There are some times that for various reasons, you have to leave a relationship. I had to leave my first marriage, not because I wanted to, but because it was not a healthy environment for myself and my daughter. It was a dangerous environment. And I remember having an argument with Josh one time. And I literally got about this close to his face. And we were in a very heated argument. I can't remember what it was. Over something silly. And he just looked at me and said, I'll be back in about 5 minutes. He went walking around the block a couple times. He came back in. He goes, why in the heck did you do that? I said, because I wanted to see whether you were going to raise a hand to me. I've already been there once. I ain't going back there again. And he never, in the entire time we've ever been, ever raised a hand to me. You know, he would love to be able to call me dear. He said that. He said, I'd love to be able to call you dear. Well, my uncle called me dear. And my uncle and I had some issues. And I've talked about it on another channel. It'll have to be a time where we talk about it here, but it'll have to be, trigger warnings put up. But dear for me is not an endearing word. It's actually, it just brings flashbacks back to my head about my uncle that I really don't want to remember. So I choose not to. So he had to say, okay, I love you enough not to call you dear. And he maybe slipped a couple times when we were first married, but he has never called me dear because I don't find that a very attractive word. I find that actually a very unattractive word, but he's done that for me. There's songs that I just can't listen to for one reason or another, and the same for him. We do things for each other in our marriage to be able to give little things to say we love you, and we need to do that whether or not if it's a marriage, whether or not we're in a friendship with somebody, even if it's just to text them and say, hey, guess what? You mean something to me today. How you doing today? You know, those know that my aunt is dying of stage 4 liver and lung cancer on Christmas Day. I took the initiative, or I didn't take the initiative, but I just knew that she was going to be busy, and I knew that she was going to have some time with her daughter. And I didn't want to interrupt that. I thought, this is their last Christmas, most likely. I don't want to interrupt this one. And I texted her through Messenger, and I said, I love you. Now, I have not called her Aunt Patty throughout her life, probably for the past, I'd say at least 20 years. And I thought about it yesterday, and I'm planning to text her this. And she said when she was here, she said, I really wish you would call me Aunt Patty. And I said to her, I said, well, I just didn't. Their aunt said, don't worry about calling me. Call me by my first name. I don't need aunt. And I get it. I mean, if my nieces and nephews want to call me Mary at one point, then that's what we'll do. But I said to her, I messaged her and said, I love you. And I said to my mother yesterday, I said, I wondered why I stopped doing that. And there was my aunt and I had some issues. But also, she always felt like an older sister to me. She never really felt like an aunt. She was the cool older sister in my brain. And so, but I took the time because I knew how special that was for her. And I texted her and I said, Merry Christmas. I love you. Aunt Patty. I took that time. And so I am realizing that that's something special. And I need to be ending my messages, or I need to be on the phone with her every once in a while saying, "Hi, Aunt Patty." She needs to hear that. I don't need to hear that. I'm fine calling her Patty, but it means something to her. So we need we need to look at friendships in that way. Best thing my parents did for all of us was getting divorced. It was the only reason could the only reason they could get married again after they worked out their issues. They had an effort and intention as a love language. And we talked about that recently. We talked about the different love languages match. We talked about them and how different love languages for me, it's absolutely 100% words of endearment. When I get the email saying your lives meant a difference to me today, when I get the things with the email saying, you know what, I can finally look at myself and say, I'm proud of being me. When there was times where I've come on, and I know we have just a few people in here, and that's fine. I'm here for the few, right? And I'm sitting here going, okay, there's only that many people, and I don't think I'm doing anything. And then, the next little bit, somebody come on, and there was like, and of course the lifeboat's on right now, but I'd have done this later, but I got to get ready for the kids. And yes, they're still kids. Uh, um, I it just means the world when somebody says, "Do you know how much your life meant to me today?" Maybe they didn't even chat in the chat, but we're here for them. Nobody has to suffer in silence. My daughter called me yesterday. My mom actually yesterday. And we know even when the kids get older, right? She called us up. She goes, "I just want you to all know that I love you dearly. And I love you dearly, and you all mean the world to me, and I want you to know that." And our response out of her mouth was, "Well, what do you want?" It was just an automatic response. And apparently yesterday was something with the Boxing Day in Canada or what have you. But her and her husband and a friend of hers and her husband and the baby went to the mall. It's in the news, so this is nothing, that's not out there. And she was in a store, and all of a sudden the gates close to the store, and they literally take her and everybody in the store and rush them in the back. And she said she was scared to death. She said she didn't know what was going on. Well, apparently there was about 20 to 30 kids that decided to get together, and we're going to do this Boxing Day at the mall, and we're going to get into fights, and we're going to destroy property. And when people were taking out cameras and filming them, they had to close down the mall. And my daughter's like, "I don't know if I'll ever step in the mall again." She said, "I was scared to death. The gates just suddenly go bang, and they literally take all the customers and rush them in the back. Scared to death." And she said, "I just want you to know I love you." And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? There's gifts under the tree. We haven't opened them yet. The gifts don't matter. It's the people. I can tell you one thing. If one of those kids had laid a hand on my son-in-law or daughter, it had been dealing with this mama. And I'm thinking, what are we doing with our young people? Turn them loose in the mall and let's just go ahead and have a party. We're going to talk about this whole thing one day. Because as furious, as frustrated and scared as my daughter was, kind of a little frustrating that you all have to have a day at the mall to decide, well, we're just going to go raise holy havoc. For what purposes? Scaring everybody? So anyway, it's not about anything else but the people that you love. And through the years means that if you find a friend, right, that you can stick by, even though you may disagree with some of their views, but at the end of the day, they have a tremendous heart and they're there for you. If you pick up the phone, they're there. If you're with somebody and you're married and you have difficulties, but it's a healthy marriage. There's no verbal abuse happening, no physical abuse happening. Nobody's getting hurt. It's good, but you have your problems, right? If you invest time and love and patience and effort, this is not a marathon or a sprint. This is a marathon. Through the years, I don't know at times how my mom and dad survived. It really, at times, I think my mother needed to walk away. My dad needed help, and he never got the right help that he needed. And now that I look back as I'm older, I see things that happened in his life that made him the way he was. And I understand it better than I did when I was younger. So, oh, yes, you did the hard stuff because you're a mama bear. Absolutely. But she said, I was just scared to death. She said, I'd have been scared to death all of a sudden. I've worked in the mall, so I know, right? I know kind of the protocol a little bit about stuff because I worked in the mall. I worked at Claire's and I pierced ears and did all the stuff, right? That people do and everything. And so I kind of know. Hi, Sam. We're about to head out. My computer obviously doesn't want to work. When my son-in-law comes today, I'm going to be asking him a question that I figured out would be better if he was here that I asked rather than trying to go back and forth in church or on the phone or something. So I wanted to ask him whether he thought it was going to be a good idea to, whether this would be a step to think about. So maybe we can not have the slowness of the computer because I've done about all I can with the one I have. But this may be a fixer for temporary that may not be as expensive as a whole new computer. So take a moment and thank our members. It's never expected. It is always appreciated when it does happen and they are able to support the channel. We do tremendously appreciate it. It just helps to support extra content. The decorations on the wall are going to stay on here for a while. I love the disco balls, right? So even after Christmas, you're going to see this, and there's a reason. I already ordered the Advent Calendar Journal for 2025, and I want to go ahead and get that recorded. So as long as all the decorations are up, we can get that recorded and done so that uh,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, now you can hear me. Oh, mm, but, we'll probably just discuss kind of today, how the, how today went, and then we're gonna kind of go into it. On the 31st, when we do Christmas Connection, I think I have it scheduled for, like, midnight or around midnight. So we've got, like, an 11:50 or something or 11:30, stream to go into it because I wanna do it with you all, and we'll just have a discussion about my grandfather. And on New Year's Day, we'll have a talk about my dad, kind of honoring both of them. But today was honoring my parents because it would have been their 53rd wedding anniversary today. They got married 2 days after Christmas, which after I threw that party for my mom and dad, I said, "Why 2 days after Christmas? Why, why, why?" But it was fun. I'm so glad I did it. And my mother years later said, "Mary, I'm really glad you didn't wait till our 50th." I said, I just knew something. I knew something. And just a little side note, it's 47 degrees in the middle of December, and there is no snow on the ground. I'm not a happy camper. So let it snow. We're not having a white Christmas. I think it may have snowed itself out for a while at the very beginning, and it didn't save some of it for like around Christmas. All right, done with trying to make the computer work because apparently it is not deciding it wants to work today. So we're done with it, and I need to get going because I've got to go get ready for the kiddos so we can get them, have Christmas. So thank you all so much. I will see you tomorrow for day 28 of Christmas Connection, and I will talk to everyone later. Have a blessed day. Stay connected, everybody. It is so important. Remember, we got you covered. Thank you so much for having us covered. And remember, be proud of being yourself because everyone else is taken. We love all of you. Have a great day. And Dad, happy heavenly anniversary. And to my mom, happy anniversary. I was blessed and proud to be your daughter. And I'm so glad that I was given you as parents. Even through all our struggles and difficulties, I would choose you all over again. Love you, Mom. Love you, Dad. Love you all. Have a great day. And do me a favor. If you got someone you love around, make sure you let them know today how much they mean to you and how much you love them. Because I love you all. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye bye, everybody.
So proud